D. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Jamana Tira Vanachari. Jamana Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padadikacharya Astotar to the Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padadikacharya Astotar to the Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavindi ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivedanta ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Forgot. Narayana Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jai Madhiriyet Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 24th day of March 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace HG Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Canto 6, Chapter 8. I forgot what it's called. Indra insults Brihaspati, I believe. Text number 34. Text 34. Vidikshu, Dikshurdvam, Adhah, Samantad, Antarbahir, Bhagavan, Narasingha, Pahapayal, Lokabayam, Swanena, Swatejasa, Grasta, Samastateja, Vidikshu Dikshu Dhamadak Samantad, Antar Bahir Bhagavan Narasingha, Pahapayal Lokabayam Swanena, Swatejasa Grasta Samastateja. Vidikshu Dikshu Dhamadak Samantad, Antar Bahir Bhagavan Narasingha, Pahapayal Lokabayam Swanena, Swatejasa Grasta Samastateja. Vidikshu Dikshu Dhamadak Samantad, Antar Bahir Bhagavan Narasingha, Pahapayal Lokabayam Swanena, Swatejasa Grasta Samastateja. Vidikshu Dikshu Dhamadak Samantad, Antar Bahir Bhagavan Narasingha, Pahapayal Lokabayam Swanena, Satejasa Grasta Samastateja. Vidikshu Dikshu Dhamadak Samantad, Antar Bahir Bhagavan Narasingha, Pahapayal Lokabayam Swanena, Swatejasa Grasta Samastateja. Vidikshu Dikshu Dhamadak Samantad, Antar Bahir Bhagavan Narasingha, Pahapayal Lokabayam Swanena, Swatejasa Grasta Samastateja. Vidikshu Dikshu Dhamadak Samantad, Antar Bahir Bhagavan Narasingha, Pahapayal Lokabayam Swanena, Swatejasa grasta samasta tejaha. Vidikshu, in all corners. Dikshu, in all directions. East, west, north, and south. Urdhvam, above. Adaha, below. Samantat, on all sides. Antaha, internally. Bahi, externally. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Narasingha, in the form of Nrsingadev, half lion and half man. Prahapayan, completely destroying. Lokabhayam, fear created by animals. Poison, weapons, water, air, fire, and so on. Svanena, by his roar or the vibration of his name. By his devotee Prahlad Maharaj. Swatejasa, by his personal effulgence. Grasta, covered. Samasta, all other. Tejaha, influences. Translation. Prahlad Maharaj loudly chanted the holy name of Lord Nrsingadev. May Lord Nrsingadev, roaring for his devotee Prahlad Maharaj, protect us from all fear of dangers created by stalwart leaders in all directions through poison, weapons, water, fire, air, and so on. May the Lord cover their influence by his own transcendental influence. May Nrsingadev protect us in all directions and in all corners, above, below, within, and without. No purport. Bhagavan idnamakyatam varma narayanatmakam vijays jasain jasayena dangshito sudayutapan. Vishwarup continued, O Indra, this mystic armor related to Lord Narayan has been described by me to you. By putting on this protective covering, you will certainly be able to conquer the leaders of the demons. Eta dadiyamanastu yam yam pashyati chakshusha padava sangsprashet sadya sadvasat savimuchyate. If one employs this armor, whomever he sees with his eyes or touches with his feet is immediately freed from all the above-mentioned dangers. Nakutashchid bhayam tasya vidyam dadayato bhavet rajadasyu grahadibhyo vyadadibhyas chakarichit. This prayer, Narayan Kavacha, constitutes subtle knowledge transcendently connected with Narayan. One who employs this prayer is never disturbed or put in danger by the government, by plunderers, by evil demons, or by any type of disease. Imam vidyam pura kaschit kaushiko dharayan vijaha yoga dharanaya svangam jahau samharu dhanvani. O King of Heaven, O Brahman named Kaushika formerly, O King of Heaven, a Brahman named Kaushika formerly used this armor when he purposely gave up his body in the desert by mystic power. Tasyo parivamanena gandhava patarekada yayo chittarata stribhir vito yatra dvijachayaha. Surrounded by many beautiful women, Chitrarata, the king of Gandharva Loka, was once passing in his airplane over the Brahman's body at the spot where the Brahman had died. Suddenly Chitrarata was forced to fall from the sky head first with his airplane. Struck with wonder, he was ordered by the great sages named the Valikilyas to throw the Brahman's bones in the nearby river Saraswati. He had to do this and bathe in the river before returning to his own abode. Shukadeva Goswami said, My dear Maharaj Pariksit, one who employs this armor or hears about it with faith and veneration, when afraid, because of any conditions in the material world, is immediately freed from all dangers and is worshipped by all living entities. King Indra, who performed 100 sacrifices, received this prayer of protection from Vishwarup. I'm sorry. Sounds like he's being protected from Vishwarup. From Vishwarup, King Indra, who performed 100 sacrifices, received this prayer of protection. After conquering the demons, he enjoyed all the opulences of the three worlds. Purport. This mystical mantra armor given by Vishwarup to Indra, the king of heaven, acted powerfully, with the effect that Indra was able to conquer the Asuras and enjoy the opulence of the three worlds without impediments. In this regard, Madhvacharya points out, Vidya karmani chasada guru prapta palapradaha anyata naiva palada pasanokta palapradaha. One must receive all kinds of mantras from a bona fide spiritual master. Otherwise, the mantras will not be fruitful. This is also indicated in the Bhagavad Gita 434. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya ubidikshanti te jnanam ganinas tatpadarshinaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Close quote. All mantras should be received through the authorized guru, and the disciple must satisfy the guru in all respects, after surrendering at his lotus feet. In the Padma Puran, it is also said, Sampradaya vihina ye mantraste nishpala mataha. There are four sampradayas, or disciplic successions, namely the Brahma Sampradaya, the Rudra Sampradaya, the Sri Sampradaya, and the Kumāra Sampradaya. If one wants to advance in spiritual power, one must receive his mantras from one of these bona fide sampradayas. Otherwise, he will never successfully advance in spiritual life. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 6th canto, 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Narayana Kavacha Shield. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So while I was thinking about this class and reading this purport, I thought of another verse, which I'm going to share to you. And this is a verse about how initiation gives one the chance to attain real knowledge. Some of you may recognize this verse. And it's very interesting because it involves the dangers of confusing with the subject with the predicate. You'll see what I mean. Okay, I did say this verse, and it's right here. Okay. So this is a wonderful purport in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 15, text 108. And I've noticed in the book that oftentimes the 108th verse of a chapter is very significant. And I also noticed that there's a wonderful chapter about the disappearance of Haridas Thakur, 108 verses in the chapter. So this is all about initiation. And I won't give you the Bengali, which I'll probably murder anyway. One does not, but the translation, Lord Chaitanya is speaking, I forget to who. One does not have to undergo initiation or execute the activities required before initiation. One simply has to vibrate the holy name with his lips. Thus even a man in the lowest class, or Chandala, can be delivered. So this is very encouraging. And Prabhupada showed that he explains in the purport here that because it talks about initiation, it talks about Purishcharya. All of means activities you have to be do beforehand to become qualified for initiation or some other form. So then, right at the beginning, the purport here, this verse is quoted. Jiva Goswami explains Diksha in his Bhakti Sandarbha. Divyam Jnanam Yato Dadyat Kuryat Papasya Sankshayam Tasmat Diksheti Sa Prokta Desikais Tatvako Vidai. Translation. Diksha is the process by which one can awaken his transcendental knowledge and vanquish all reactions caused by sinful activity. A person expert in the study of the revealed scriptures knows this process as Diksha. Now, certain devotees in the 80s, there was this movement called Ritvik, which is, I think it's still going on. And they use this verse to justify the idea. Well, Diksha is the process by which one can awaken this transcendental knowledge. That means if we're awakening our transcendental knowledge by reading Prabhupada's books, we're getting initiated by Prabhupada. Right? It makes sense. If I'm just cultivating this knowledge, the whole movement built on this. In fact, I'll share with you a little editing pastime at the beginning of the Adi Leela. I had to deal with this. But no, what this means is that by getting Diksha, you enable yourself to achieve the spiritual knowledge. That's what the import of the purport we read to the Bhagavatam was, right? That without proper initiation and getting the mantra doesn't have its effect. And whatever knowledge you attain, just like so many people read Prabhupada's books, and which is great, but unless they come to the point of then getting interested in practicing and taking initiation, then that knowledge just goes into their vast store of knowledge. It's one of many things they know, and it doesn't have its real impact. I mean, it's auspicious. But, and Srila Prabhupada explains, I think here in this purport, that therefore, we don't just initiate anyone and everyone. If you're serious, then you have to practice for so many months, he says 6 months, and show that you're serious and be regulated and follow the 4 regs and all these different things. And then that's the Purishcharya that he set up. And then one can take first initiation and later the second initiation like that. So this is, I just wanted to point that out, that I suddenly realized that this is a confusion of the subject and the predicate. Just like in the verse, and this is going to the famous verse, Janma karma cha me divyam, evam yo veti tattvadeha, tuktvadeyam punajana naiti mameti sojan. This is one of the top verses Prabhupada would quote in terms of frequency, which means by understanding in truth the divine nature of Krishna's birth and activities, then one won't take birth again, and will come back to guided, right? He doesn't. So, but what the translation says, I'm sorry, that's a different verse. It's Yagyartart kamano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhana tadatam kamakonteya muktasanga samatra. This is in the 3rd chapter, and it's about the idea that whatever work you do has to be done as an act of sacrifice. Otherwise, whatever you don't do as sacrifice will bind you to this world and you have to come back again. Therefore, perform all your activities as sacrifice. But what the translation says is, work as a sacrifice for Vishnu must be performed. Otherwise, work binds us to this material world. So, the problem with that is that, because I visualized a very pious family, like we have these nice Indian families, they come one day a week or do something, you know. So imagine that, okay, today's Saturday morning, now we got our two kids, an older boy and a younger girl, and we're going to pack into the car and we're going to go to the Hare Krishna temple and we're going to clean the temple. You know, this could actually happen, right? Maybe it does happen. I'm not here on Saturday morning. And, you know, after lunch, after breakfast. And so they're all doing this activity, and it's activity that's selfless. They're giving the fruits to Krishna. They're following this verse, right? And they're following it. Work as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. They're performing a work as a sacrifice for Vishnu. It doesn't say there, everything you do has to be, some work for sacrifice has to be, see? Not, work has to be performed as a sacrifice of Vishnu. You see the difference between the subject and the predicate? The predicate is not, the subject is not work as a sacrifice for Vishnu. The subject is work, and then it's telling you, what about that work? It all has to be done as a sacrifice of Vishnu. And then you don't get any result. You see the difference? So the confusion is that Diksha is awakening transcendental knowledge, which we can do just by reading Prabhupada's books. And if we read Prabhupada's books enough and we get enough knowledge, we're initiated by Prabhupada. That's the Ritvik idea. So anyway, I realized, no, you see in the context, that this Diksha, formal Diksha, that we know Prabhupada gave us, the change in name, the vows before the fire sacrifice, the whole thing, enables you to learn the transcendental knowledge and to have its proper effect, that it actually transforms your life. Otherwise, you know, you can just compartmentalize it here and it doesn't have its effect. So I wanted to share that with you. But I wanted to share something else, and that is, this is a prayer to the first verse that we actually chant, Vidikshu Dikshu. It's a glorification of Lord Nrsingadev, a very sweet verse. And it kind of echoes the prayer. What is it that we sing? Bahir, video. He's outside, he's in our heart, like that. And that's the same thing. Up and down, all around. This is what this verse is about. So, but the whole context here is this prayer, okay, which is being glorified also in the purport, that by chanting this Narayana Kavacha, one will be safe even from diseases and from dangers and so forth. That's great. But I wanted to share with you another prayer to Lord Nrsingadev. This one is given by Prahlad Maharaj. And it's famous. Some of you may know this. And it has in the purport, it has a wonderful purport to it. I especially memorized this, remember this verse because I edited it when it first came out. This is part of the Marathon 5th Canto. And when I read the purport, I immediately memorized the verse, and you'll understand why. So it's not a verse. It's a prose passage. Canto 5, chapter 18, text 8. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasinghaya Namaste Jastejase Avadavir Bhavavadana Kavadvadangshikarma Shayan Randaya Randayatamo Grasa Grasa Hom Swaha Abhyam Abhyamapanim Buhishta Ong Shram. So it has that Abhyam Abhyam. You know this one? You're familiar? So it has that fearlessness, but there's a lot more to it. Prahlad Maharaj prays, I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Nrsingadev, the source of all power. O my Lord, who possess nails and teeth just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruitive activity in this material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away your ignorance, so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. So there's still that prayer for fearlessness, but it's preceded by the prayer for purification of heart. So this purport is great. In Srimad Bhagavatam 4:22-39, Sanat Kumāra speaks the following words to Maharaj Prithu, and probably quote this verse quite a bit. Yad pada pankaja palasya bilasa bhaktya karmasayam gvatita mudgvatayanti santaha tadbanda rikta matayo yatayopi ruddha sroto ganasta madanam bhajavasudevam. Quote, devotees always engage in the service of the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord. Devotees always engaged in the service of the toes of the Lord's lotus feet can very easily become free from hard-knotted desires for fruitive activities. Because this is very difficult, the non-devotees, the jnanis and yogis, cannot stop the waves of sense gratification, although they try to do so. Therefore, you are advised to engage in the devotional service of Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. End quote. Every living being within this material world has a strong desire to enjoy matter to his fullest satisfaction. For this purpose, the conditioned soul must accept one body after another, and thus his strongly fixed fruitive desires continue. One cannot stop the repetition of birth and death without being completely desireless. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami describes pure bhakti, devotional service, as follows. Anyabhilashada shunyam jnana karma dhyanapatam manukulena krishnanushilanam bhaktaruttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service, close quote. Unless one is completely freed of all material desires, which are caused by the dense darkness of ignorance, one cannot fully engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, we should always offer our prayers to Lord Nrsingadev, who killed Hiranyakashipu, the personification of material desire. Hiranya means gold, and Kashipu means a soft cushion or bed. Materialistic persons always desire to make the body comfortable, and for this they require huge amounts of gold. Thus, Hiranyakashipu was the perfect representative of materialistic life. He was therefore the cause of great disturbance to the topmost devotee, Prahlad Maharaj, until Lord Nrsingadev killed him. Any devotee aspiring to be free of material desires should offer his respectful prayers to Nrsingadev as Prahlad Maharaj did in this verse. So, one thing about this Hiranyakashipu name, so on a tape I heard Prabhupada said, it's not only, Hiranya means gold, Kashipu means a soft cushion or bed, and the bed companion, Prabhupada says. And money and sex, that's the main moving force in the materialist. So, now this prayer is echoed in the ninth, actually it's the 10th chapter of the 7th canto. After Nrsimhadev killed the Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad Maharaj offered his prayers, then Lord Nrsimhadev offers him any benediction he wants. Whatever you want. You want a planet, you want 1,000 wives, just name it. So then Prahlad's response is, he complains. He says, my dear Lord, I was born amongst the demons, so I'm naturally inclined to material desires. So please don't tempt me. I'm not some vanik. Vanik means some merchant that I'm doing some service for you like that. So, but then he did offer a prayer. Yadi dasasi me kaman varang swang vadadarshaba. Kamanam disamroham bhabadas tu vanevaram. O my Lord, best of the givers of benediction, if you at all want to bestow a desirable benediction upon me, then I pray from your Lordship that within the core of my heart there be no material desires. So it's the same prayer in a much shorter form. Please let me have no material desires. And his one other prayer was, please deliver my father, as evil as he was. And so Nrsimhadev says, don't worry, so many generations before and generations after, which included Bali Maharaj and Banasura and others, will be delivered. They'll be blessed. So this is just the contrast here is interesting. Now, the Narayan Kavacha is glorified, and if we have some fear, when this chapter came out, this volume of the 6th canto came out, many devotees said, okay, I'm learning this prayer. They learned the whole, the techniques and everything. Because life in the material world can be dangerous, and they were having some trouble, which is fine. And there's also the Nrsimha Kavacha that became famous. I made a recording of it once, which directly talks about protection and curing diseases. I mentioned the Bhushan. I don't know if you've talked to Bhushan lately, but his mother is suddenly took ill in India, and he's very upset about it. So I recommend that I'll give you this recording of the Nrsimha Kavacha, and I also have a PDF of it, of the words, which I did, and he says he's reading it and chanting it. And lo and behold, right in the Nrsimha Kavacha, I had forgotten this, it mentions that if you chant this Nrsimha Kavacha, it could cure diseases, especially of the belly, of the stomach, which is what her mother has. So there's that. And it's good because it'll get him chanting, glorifying Nrsimhadev. But you can see the difference here. Here's Prahlad Maharaj, who's the absolutely pure pinnacle of devotees. And he didn't pray to Lord Nrsimhadev or Lord Krishna for protection. He was meditating on the Lord, but you don't get the sense while he was being attacked by his father. Oh my dear Lord Krishna, please protect me from this danger, like that. He was just meditating on the Lord in bliss, whatever you want. Just like we find with Ambarish. I think this example is given. He was attacked by the demonic yogi Durvasa, right? And he created this Kritya, this female demoness. I looked it up in a dictionary. Fiery demons, to burn into ashes. And amazingly, he's standing there, we have the painting, he's standing there, and simply like this, and the demons is coming, and he's completely serene. He's just like Prahlad. You get the sense Prahlad, he's just meditating on the Lord so intensely that he didn't even feel anything when he's put into the vat of oil, boiling oil, and many other dangers. So, and that's the same thing with we have with Haridas Thakur. He was being executed in like a horrible way by beating. He wasn't sentenced to be beaten in 22 marketplaces. He was sentenced to be beaten to death. And even after 22 marketplaces, they couldn't do it. That's what happened. And he wasn't feeling the pain. Of course, Lord Chaitanya, it says, was protecting his back. But he was just chanting. He wasn't chanting, oh, Krishna, please protect me from this beating. He was just chanting in complete absorption, whatever you want. And with Ambarish, Hare Krishna, whatever, let it burn. Just like Pariksit says, let that Takshika bite me or whatever else has been, created by this Shringi. But just go on chanting and hearing. Just go on chanting the glories of the Lord. That's all I want. If I'm going to die now or later, it doesn't matter, as long as I can be absorbed in Krishna Katha. So there's a contrast there, deeply, with what's happening here in the 6th canto. And as I point out, as we learn in the next chapter or the chapter after that, that after all of this wonderful prayer and Vishwarup surrendering to them and say, I know I'm younger than you, but yes, I'll take the role of the guru. You know, it's all very positive. But that Indra, inconceivably, he cuts off his head when he sees that he's offering some oblation to the asuras. You know, he completely, anger, by becoming controlled by anger, you lose your discrimination, you lose your intelligence. That's right in the Bhagavad Gita. So, and then, you know, the battle takes place, and Vritrasura is there, and Indra, yes, he's got this invincible thunderbolt, and he's got the Narayan Kabacha, and so he wins the battle, but he loses the war. Vritrasura goes back to Godhead. Chitraketu, Vritrasura, who's really got the soul of Chitraketu, he's thankful to be killed, goes back to Godhead, finished. But Indra says, oh my God, I've killed 2 Brahmins now. Vishwarup, who was definitely a Brahmin, and now Vritrasura, who was evoked by his father, Tvashta, and so that's kind of fatherhood, so he's another Brahmin, and now I'm going to get sinful reaction. And sure enough, he looks in the sky, and there's sinful reaction personified in the form of this tubercular old woman, right? Really far out. And he realizes what's going on. He flees, he flees, he flees. He takes shelter in the middle of a lake somewhere, I think, and then breathes through the straw, something like some movie, a Western or something, for like thousands of years, you know. So this is the fallacy of, you know, it's interesting because I'm just working on the Bhagavad Gita now, looking at some revisions that have been made, and Krishna says there are 4 types of pious people who come to him. These aren't pure devotees yet, right? Chaturvada bhajante mam jana sukritanojana, arto jigyasu artarti gyanicha bhadatarshaba. And okay, arto, very common. Someone is suffering something, just like here, you know, and you pray ardently to the Lord, please relieve my suffering. In so many. Oh, that's one. And if you go to Krishna, if you come to the Krishna temple and you see Krishna and you do that, then it's very auspicious. You're coming to Krishna in your pain, and then you'll hear and take some prasad, and you know, become a devotee. That's the idea. But it's you're pious. Otherwise, you go, you know, you have some pain. No, let me take a drug. You know, I'll go get some painkiller. So anyway, there's the arta. Then there's the artarti. Now the artarti, according to the commentators, are those who are desirous of wealth. That's in the translation. They're not distressed because of lack of money. They want to be wealthy here, rich on this plane, and then go to heaven and enjoy in heavenly life. That's the artarti. And the example given is Dhruva. He wanted this kingdom greater than his father, greater than his grandfather, right? It was kind of a childish desire in one sense. He was still a child, 5 years old. But he got the blessings of Narada Muni. He was given the Krishna mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and rudimentary deity worship and meditation on the Lord within. So it's all bhakti. But his motivation is get the kingdom, get the kingdom, get the kingdom. But he became so purified by the process that when he finally got the darshan of Vishnu, he said, Svam and Katato Simvidannayachi. I was situated in severe penance in order to get this. You know, Sthana Milasi Tapasi Tvam, but now I've gotten you, I've seen you, oh my Lord, which is like a valuable jewel, and I realized that what I wanted, the kingdom of Brahma, which lasts 311 trillion years, is like a broken glass. I don't want that, you know. I'm completely satisfied. That's the idea. So this is the artarti, successful artarti. He wanted wealth. He came to Vishnu. He got the blessings of Narada Muni, and what he was doing was bhakti, and so he was purified of his desire when he finally got the darshan. So in any case, here is in a sense the artos. The demigods are in great distress now. And they even got injured, weren't they? All bleeding and everything from the injuries. So they go to, was it Twashta? No, they went to the Lord, right, and just prayed, I think. First, Brahma. And he advised them, and they were able to get the darshan of Vishwarup. He accepted their proposal. Yes, I'll be your priest. He wasn't like the Diksha Guru, Bhakti Guru. He was a priest, and so he expert at chanting mantras, so that he could evoke this Narayan Kavacha empowered. So it worked for them, and they became empowered. He got the very powerful special thunderbolt, and so they beat back the demigods. But in the process, Indra flies off the handle again. He wasn't purified of the material desire. The whole thing was based on the material desire to get their kingdom back. You see? So it wasn't pure devotion. But with Prahlad, it totally is. He was simply meditating on the Lord. That's he's the acharya. He's the exemplar of that among the 9 processes. He's the most perfect rememberer, and everything came from that. His father was vanquished, and he got an opportunity to offer the prayers. And what are the prayers? Please let no what the small one says. Let no material desire take root. Yadi dasi ye kaman, varang sambadadarshaba, kamanam ridya asang roham. Roham means a little something that's growing. Let it not take root in my heart. So that's a prayer that we can all offer to Nrsingadev. And there are some others. Every morning when we greet the deities, we have the Nrsingadev picture. Many of you may not know. I think it was before your time. Ramapati, you remember? Didn't we have a Nrsinga deity here? Komala Nrsinga. We had for some time. Yeah, it was on the altar over there, and it eventually went up to L.A. And they had it installed in the little house. There was a little thing set up near the temple, and I think it's now on the altar in ISV, right? Eventually, Vaisheshik has it. Very nice deity. So, Komala Nrsinga, it's very peaceful, very smiling, This is Komala. As soon as Prahlad came in, you remember the past time. Nrsingadev is so angry that even Brahma and Lakshmi and Indra and all the demigods, they offered one prayer at a great distance, hoping to pacify him. Here, please have a seat on the bench, or if you like. Yeah, there's a ladies' side over here. Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming. So, where was I? Yeah. So anyway, So Prahlad was pushed forward. After all, they offered these prayers, and they're pretty nice, but they couldn't pacify Nrsingadev. So they said, like, Prahlad, he likes you. See what you can do. You can imagine a little Prahlad coming forth. And he wasn't afraid at all. They were all scared, including Lakshmi, because he was like this ferocious, you can imagine. And Prahlad went near him, and he immediately became Komala. Prahlad, and put him on his lap and everything. And Prahlad offered these wonderful prayers in chapter 9. And then he offered him a benediction. He says, "Don't tempt me, my Lord, I'm not asking." He's not asking for anything material. He's asking for lack of anything material. Please let me not desire anything material. So this is the kind of prayer that we can offer. And even just the prayerful chanting of Hare Krishna mantra should be informed by that mood. Let me just have this Anya Bilashita Shunyam, which was quoted in one of these purports I read. The standard. This is what Gaudiya Vaishnava is all about. Without Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. Shunyam means completely void of any other desire, but to serve Krishna for his pleasure. And take, again, that formula that Jiva Goswami gives in his Sandarbha from the second canto. Chapter 3, text 10, Kama Sarva Kama Vavers. Padama Purusha, Bhajaniya Padama Purusha Sukha Matra Swasukhat Bang. Bhajaniya Padama Purusha means the worshipable Supreme Lord, and only the happiness, taking one's pleasure only in the happiness of the happiness of the Supreme Lord. That's real desirelessness, that's a kama, and that's pure devotion also. So that's what we're trying to cultivate. The whole process that we're undergoing is a process of purification. Purification of the heart, ceto darpana marjanam. So that all of the millions and millions of lifetimes of cultivating material desires, which have left a residue, if you will, that needs to be cleansed, can be cleansed. And by the main cleaner, the chanting of the holy name. That's the main thing, especially congregationally. Ceto darpana marjanam bhavamahadavagni nirvapana. So that's what I wanted to share with you. And we can see that Bhagavatam is teaching us. We look at the lesson in total, and we see that even though he learned about this Narayan Kavacha and so many things, ultimately the name should be chanted without any kind of material desire. You know, that it should be chanted just out of pure joy in glorifying the Lord and for His pleasure. That's the thing, and so that the heart remains completely pure. Otherwise, the desire, if it's fulfilled, the Krishna-filled desire, then you can become conditioned again. And we know Bhogashraya Prasaktanam Taya Paditachetisam Vyavasayatmaka Padusamarovadnabadhiyate, that the very firm determination to perform devotional service, Vyavasayatmaka Buddhi, intelligence, cannot take place if one is too much enamored with bhoga and aishwarya, with material pleasure and wealth, and one's mind is bewildered by such things. So this is right in the second chapter, and the Bhagavad Gita, a very important verse. And Prabhupada really took that previous verse to heart. Vyavasayatmaka buddhi, ekeha kudanandana. He gave, in his commentary there, he quotes Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, that this one-pointed determination to practice pure devotional service means, or is equivalent to taking the orders of the spiritual master and making it one's life and soul. And Prabhupada showed by his example how to do that. That despite all the difficulty, and you know, he was hesitant to take sannyas, and the spiritual master was appearing in his dreams and telling him that, you know, all this, that he did it. And he just threw himself at the mercy of the Lord and said, "Okay, I'm going to New York," you know. And that was from that determination, everything we see here has developed. Krishna responded. So we should emulate that, even as in our own halting ways, because that's what Gaudiya Vaishnava ultimately means: is complete purification of one's heart, and awakening of one's consciousness that is situated in eternal life of bliss and knowledge. And so that when that begins to come, and you start to taste the wonderment of real devotional service to Krishna, then all this other stuff becomes uninteresting, becomes insignificant. Even up to Brahma's kingdom, 300 trillion years. Who wants it? I don't have to be in the material world for 300 trillion years. Let me die now and go back to Godhead. And let me just go to Vrindavan. You know, just like Queen Kunti prays, she found that, because in their whole adventure, you know, of wandering, they had the kingdom. That's why they're performing the Rajasuya sacrifice. They had the kingdom, and it was stolen by the cheating dice game. Because Yudhishthira was so strict. Even though he knew that they were going to cheat him, he was challenged to gambling, and the Kshatriya must, you know, agree to that challenge. So they lost the kingdom. Then they're exiled and all these different things. And when they got it back, all that was relieved, and there was ISKCON, Krishna was visiting, and everything was fine. But then he's going back, and in her prayers in the 8th chapter, he says, "We went through so many dangers, and you were always there. We felt your presence so tangibly. And even sometimes you appeared, like in the forest, when Duryodhan had conspired with Devasa, that he should go there. You know, he had done some service for Devasa. Devasa offered him a benediction later. I'll take it later. These later benedictions often cause havoc. Didn't that happen with the Ramayana too? Okay. What was the name? Kaikeyi? You know. Anyway, so he sends Devasa. He says, go and ask, they're in the forest now. So you go with all your disciples at lunchtime, But make sure that Draupadi is eaten already. Because then she has a benediction that if she hasn't eaten lunch, then she can feed as many people. So you go later. So they went, and suddenly, it's the Kshatriyas and the Brahmins thing. These are all Brahmins, I said, okay, well, would you like to stay for lunch? They're out in the forest with a couple of pots, Oh yeah, sure, we'll just take a bath in the river, because you always camp by a river, So there's thousands of disciples in the river. So then, what to do? So Krishna comes, and to save them. And he says, well, I know you've just taken lunch, but do you have anything left over? He said, no, it's all gone. He said, just look in the pot, and there's always a little something left. So give me that. So he gave him a little shock. He ate the shock, and all the disciples in Devasa were like filled up to here. He said, oh, we'll be embarrassed. We can't eat a thing more. So they skunked away, felt away. So Krishna was always saving them, and they got his direct darshan there. But now, the war is over, the danger is over. He's off the chariot, and he's going back to Dwarka. He says, no, forget that. Vipadak santu takshashot tatu tatu jagadguru. Let those dangers happen again and again, because by seeing those dangers again and again, we see you again and again. And then we don't have to see birth and death again and again. So this is the prayer of the pure devotees. All right, I've gone a little far afield, but we did finish the chapter. Any questions? Bhakti Joseph. Hare Krishna.
Hi, Hare Krishna. That was a good pastime story. Anywho, you talked about...
Describe him. I know if I got the name. Was it Devasa Muni? Was it Prahlada?
It had to do with vibrating our lips with the vibrational sound of the Hare Krishna chant. I'm doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm aspiring to be initiated, but if I die tomorrow, is that going to be good enough if I'm just chanting?
It depends on what you're thinking when you die. I can't figure out what that's going to be. Anyway, you're on the right path. Keep doing what you're doing. Come regularly, chant Hare Krishna, chant 16 rounds, follow the 4 regular principles. Keep doing service. Was it you who put the handles on the door? Yeah. Okay. See, I asked him to put the handle on the door because we didn't have a handle to put it. And it took him a little while, but he did it. Thank you. And that's, service to the temple, service to the Lord, service to the devotees. Make it easier on them. So take comfort in that. Anyone else? Anyone online? Vijay Krishna. He must be somewhere.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. No questions? I have a question for you.
God.
Do you have a question? That's my question.
Yes, I have a question.
Please. We're ready for it.
But do you allow me to ask a question?
Yes, please. Is that your question?
No, it's because I just left a Srimad Bhagavatam class, ISKCON Denver, morning Bhagavatam class, Zoom class.
Okay. This is also a Zoom class for you.
Yes, but I came late to your class, so can I ask you a question related to ISKCON Denver Bhagavatam class?
Some other Bhagavatam class?
ISKCON Denver.
Oh, you can try. I'll see what I come up with. Go ahead.
It's
gonna be
I
tough.
asked to Mother Parameshwari, who gave today's morning Srimad Bhagavatam class in ISKCON Denver, about, because there's a pastime related to King
Prataparudra?
Prachinabar.
Oh, Prachinabar. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so he's being chastised by
Narada.
Narada Muni because of killing too much animals, too many animals.
Okay.
And Narada Muni showed him, this a vision. These animals are waiting for you to avenge their death.
Yes, I remember that passage.
Okay, so then such a pastime approached by her, by Mother Parameshwari in her Bhagavatam class, transported me to Bhagavad Gita, to the chapter Dhyana Yoga,
Yeah.
related to Krishna chanting to Arjuna about moderation in sleeping, eating, and
Recreation.
so then my question was: is it that in a similar way the king was killing too many animals and he's going to be punished? So in a similar way, if I do exaggerate in relation to the basic needs for maintaining body and soul together, for example, related to too much eating, because in the chapter Jnana Yoga, Krishna is advising Arjuna, if you eat too much, you cannot worship me.
No, you can worship me. You can worship Krishna, but you can't control your mind yet. You have to have a peaceful mind. Plus, you'll sleep too much, right? I mean, they work together. That's the problem. Yeah, no, I mean, it's right there. Sixth chapter is fine, but just read the nectar of instruction. The very first verse in which the practical instruction of do's and don'ts, Atyahara priyasascha prajabol niyamagraha janasangastalayangcha should be bhakti pranashyati. Here's how you destroy your bhakti. Too much eating and too much over-collecting. That's atyahara. And working very hard for material things, priyasascha, and nonsense talk, hearing or talking. Niyamagraha, that breaks into two. Ignoring, slacking off on the regulations of devotional service, or performing them in name only. You're maybe there physically, but your mind is elsewhere. You're not really sincere. Janasanga, associated with non-devotees, and laulyam, greed for material things. Even if you can't get them, if you cultivate a great desire for material accumulation, that's also going to block your devotional service. So read the nectar of instruction as far as the eating thing goes. I mean, it makes sense. If you eat too little, if you fast too much, you'll be too weak to perform devotional service. If you eat too much, then you sleep too much, you get sick, you won't be able to concentrate on your rounds like that. So moderation in everything, in sleeping and eating like that. That's what Krishna is saying. And that makes perfect sense, even just if you want to maintain your good health. So, but more pertinent is and to the point is the passage in the Nectar of Instruction. Okay? Verse number 3.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Wonderful answer. Very helpful.
Sure. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. Oh, you have a question, Dhanavari?
Yes, if Prabhu, if you have time, otherwise I can ask tomorrow.
Yeah, why don't we put it off to tomorrow? Because it's getting late.
No problem. Thank you. Wonderful class, Prabhu.
Glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila.
Thank you, Maya, very much. Thank you for coming. Hari Bol.